Hi, Mark Camoccio, Mart TV. We're out on a rather lovely day here, and the idea of this is to show you some basics on how to zero a scope. We've obviously covered various elements of sort of beginner's guide, and obviously you know, if you've been doing it, I've spent my life around air guns. You sort of do things without and take it all for granted, but if you're new to the sport, even the basics can seem complicated, but there's a few basic rules that I stick to, and I just want to sort of show you the process. So that's what we're going to do here with a basic beginner's guide on how to zero a scope. Now what we've done, we've obviously got the scope mounted, we've got all that set, we're happy about that in the gun, so now we're just going to deal with the adjustments. So the scope's fresh to the rifle, so there's the actual zero, and the adjustments of the impact point aren't going to be properly set, and that's what we're calling setting up zero. Now I would say in the absolute basics of this, ideally you want to eliminate human error with this, so you can do it if you're not that confident in your own abilities. Lie prone, have the gun in a bean bag, minimise the your actual wobble and your human error, so that we can really concentrate on getting that fine adjustment onto the scope. I'm going to give you a rough guide here, so I'm going to do it from a sitting position, but it'll give you a rough idea. So now the principle here is what I tend to do, and I've done this from very early on in my shooting. You put a scope onto a gun, the zero can be miles out depending on the setup. And so what I always do is start at a really extreme close distance, put up a big target card, and we can clearly see, don't worry about complicated target designs, ideally a fresh blank piece of card, and either do a felt pen circle or put one target up like we've got here. And we're going to shoot deliberately at close range because the card will pick up the shot, so we'll then be able to work from that. Make it simple for yourself. Start with a big clear target, put it out close. So what we're going to do first is just shoot. I'm going to aim bang on all the time. We're aiming bang on. We're going to see where the shot goes, and then we're going to make adjustments depending on that. So we're going to get started on the close range. This is about 5 or 6 yards away. Right, well that's a lot better than I've often had. It can often just be on the corner of the paper when you've just put the scope and stuff together. So we're not too far off there. What I'm going to do now, because it's nicely in a reasonable area, we're going to move back to 25 yards, and then we're going to shoot at the top dot. Now obviously the shots we've taken, you know, I was lucky in that this wasn't far off, so we've not got major adjustments to make. If your shots were right near the edge of the paper at very close range, then I'd recommend sort of turn the dial in sort of a quarter turn intervals, and if it's very slight adjustment it's making and you're a good way off, then do a half turn of the dial of the turret each time until you're getting somewhere not too far off the target. That's at the very close range, just to give you a rough idea. Now I'm going to shoot a few shots at the top dot, and we're now at 25 yards, and then we'll see what we've got to do to adjust it. Right, now what we've done, I've only taken a couple of shots because they were in a consistent place. If you're not so sure, you're getting a big spread, do 4 or 5 shots and take an average of your spread to see your adjustment. So coming back to the target, we can see I was aiming bang on, always aim bang on for this process, because otherwise you're not getting anywhere. I'm aiming bang on there, and as you can see, if you imagine that's the centre line, it's roughly 2.5 inches that it's the impact point's gone to the left, and roughly, I mean it's just a rough 2 inches, it's gone high. So we now need to make an adjustment to bring it into nearer the target. Now, this is where it comes down to the turrets on your scope. Now they normally give you an arrow to show you the direction, so that's saying turn that anti-clockwise and it will make the impact point as R for right. So it's really spelling it out for you. Now the key point is it depends on your scope and the actual click values. Now this one, very easily marked, it's 1/4 inch. This stands for 1/4 inch movement at 100 yards. So if you imagine we're shooting at 25 yards, whatever whatever the adjustment is, we've got to do 4 times as much at 25 yards. Imagine it as a cone of adjustment. So if that's going to move it 1/4 inch at 100 yards, we need to do 4 clicks to move it the same value at 25. So I mean, over the years you get used to being able to do this much more quickly. You can sort of speed dial these. A 1/4 turn is 1 inch at 25 yards, if you imagine, because it's 16 clicks, so that's 4 lots of the 4 clicks that makes the 1/4 inch. So but basically it all depends on the values on your scope. This one is 1/4 inch clicks. You get MOA, minute of angle, 1/10 of a mil, etc. It all depends on your scope, but you can work to a rough guide, but these are very easy to follow. So if you look at the target, we can see that where our impact point is, it's roughly 2.25 inches to the left, and it's gone 2 inches high. So we now need to make adjustments to compensate for that. So if you look at the turret there, mine is marked up in 1/4 inch clicks. That represents 1/4 inch at 100 yards. So if we're shooting at 25 yards, you've got to do 4 times that amount to make the same adjustment. So roughly it's 4 clicks for 1/4 inch. Build that up, it's 16 clicks for 1 inch of movement, so that makes it simple. So remember, we now need to bring the impact point 2.5 inches to the right, so it shows you the direction for the right. So we move that 2.5 inches. As I say, a 1/4 turn is about 1 inch, so we're going to come across a half, that's 1 inch, roughly 2 inch, and we'll do that. That's roughly the 2.5 inches to move the impact point to the right. Now we want to come down 2 inches because our impact point was going high. So again, that's telling you it's going up that way. So we're going to go the opposite direction to move the impact point down. So that's a 1/4 turn, roughly 1 inch, another 1/4 turn, roughly 2 inches. Now let's see, we shouldn't be too far away from the impact point now, and what we'll do then, we'll be looking at the target, and then we can do much finer tweaks if necessary. So let's see how we get on. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. It's the shots aren't far off at all. Rule of thumb is, if you've got near enough with your zero, don't rush, don't overtie yourself in a session. Over the next couple of sessions, do very fine adjustments. And again, if you just remember, go by your turret and get the direction right, or it can get confusing. But just make those finer little tweaks. If you think, oh well, that's actually after several sessions, it's say 1/4 inch to the right still, it's always going slightly right, then turn it slightly left and take that into account with a few clicks. So if it was 1/4 inch, it'll be 4 clicks if it's the 1/4 inch click adjustments. Yeah, don't be in a rush to do it, don't be too hasty, but over time you can fine tweak that zero until you're happy. One final comment, we're just giving you a basic idea here, is obviously change of position. Now with pneumatics, if you change position, it has very little effect on the impact point. If you use a spring gun, as we've regularly talked about and I've done articles on, it's a whole science in itself. A little change in your grip will change your impact point. So you don't be surprised about that, you've got to learn how that changes. The fun with this is, whatever your main position is going to be. So if you shoot HFT, we do it mainly prone. If you're out hunting, you're going to be mainly standing, do it from that, but obviously that's not a particularly stable position. But whatever your main position is, you really want to zero the gun with that position, and then learn the difference in impact point, especially if you're using a Springer, and it will alter. But they're the sort of basics that I've worked to. I hope that helps, and yeah, good shooting.